Welcome back to another NASCAR DFS and gambling show. Today I'll be going over the Toyota 500. It'll take place tomorrow night, Wednesday, and I think they have moved up the start time to about 6 p.m. Eastern time, so that should be interesting if we can even get this Xfinity race on. As I am recording this, they're on a rain delay. It's supposed to start at 6. It's currently 6:23 when I'm recording this, so we might be having a Thursday Xfinity race and a Friday Cup race, but that is yet to be seen. But let's get right into why you guys are watching this video. So let's just take a look at salaries for this race. Kevin Harvick won on Sunday. He was probably one of my top plays. If you follow me on Twitter, I gave out the bet to bet Kevin Harvick to win the race. I think he was around plus 700, so if you cashed that, congratulations. Be sure to follow me on Twitter for more of those picks and stay up to date on some news. I did make a stand on Kyle Busch on my previous video on Xfinity. I actually played him in cash just to cover my butt, and it turns out he was very high owned in cash, but faded him in GPP, so that's good. We'll see what happens there whenever they race. But let's get back into Cup here. Kyle Busch remains 12,000. He remains the highest price driver. I don't really like him, to be honest here. He needs to get to 5th, starting 26th. He did make his way up towards there. But like I said, with these guys, you want them to lead laps. You want to get the leader when you're paying this premium for these prices. He's obviously not 16,000 like his Xfinity price, but 12,000 you still want him to lead laps. I could see why you'd put him in your cash game lineup. I mean, it's a safe floor. He had to pit with a loose wheel there at the end of the race. He was running top 6, top 7. But Toyotas, man, I just don't see the speed in them. Martin Truex came through the field there late. He struggled at the beginning. It looked like he unloaded terrible, but they finally fixed up the car, got him fast, and one could say that Martin Truex was charging towards the front. But the one thing we learned here, that first pit box and getting out front in clean air, it means everything. Kevin Harvick in dirty air was not as effective as he was in clean air, and that was for sure the case. I think Kevin Harvick remains in the first pit box, if I'm not mistaken, so Kevin Harvick remains a strong play. They're bringing back the same car, which is kind of concerning because Darlington's a tough track, and a lot of those cars had damage on Sunday. Not his, obviously. He stayed out of the wall, I'm pretty sure, so it's concerning that they're using the same car, but obviously that same car was fast out front. So they already know what they got there. He needs second for 5X, and obviously you got to think he's going to finish top 5 again. Obviously you think he should be a favorite to lead laps again because he has that number 1 pit box. But people will probably play Kevin Harvick. He's starting 20th. I would definitely play Harvick over Kyle Busch. That is for sure. That first pit box means so much to me, so much this track and to me when I'm playing. But yeah, I think Kevin Harvick here, he's a very solid play. You just can't argue with it. He's got everything going his way, and he could possibly sweep Darlington this week. So just keep that in mind. He does have the number 1 pit box, I am pretty sure. I will update that on my Twitter when I find out, but I'm almost certain that that's the case. Let's look here. Martin Truex, 11,100. Like I just got done saying, he started charging towards the front, starting 15th. One can make the case if he gets out front, he could lead laps. I wouldn't argue with you there. But yeah, they're just too inconsistent. These Toyotas, to me, I think we've seen that it's Chevrolet, Ford, and then Toyota in terms of speed. I would rather just stay away from Truex for me. Obviously, you got to have some GPP. He's not my favorite this week. He is just not. Toyotas, Hamlin and Truex, obviously they can get out front and lead, but honestly, I just don't think that's the play. I really don't. Here's the thing. All these guys right here in this range, starting position-wise, They're the highest priced drivers for a reason. They're in this sweet spot that you're going to have to get correct, I believe. If you it's like Sunday. If you had the wrong Dominator combination, you probably weren't going to cash. So it's just very tough in this range, and I would stay away from Toyota if it were me. I'll probably be underweight on these two right here, Hamlin and Truex. So I just think that it's going to be too much, especially when you had Jimmy Johnson and William Byron wreck out, and you factor in their finishes right here. That's 2 spots they'll probably lose, or be in contention with 2 more cars that are competitive. And you got to think there's other drivers that are going to bring better equipment to the track. So we can't rely too much on what we see on Sunday, because new cars handle different, new setup. They're going to crack down. They're going to do better. Guys like Chris Buescher that was just off of it Sunday. Chris Buescher could come in here and run top 15 with a new setup. So factor that in. Don't rely too much on this finish. Rely more on the form, as we've been talking about, because Chevrolet, when you look at this current form, other than Kevin Harvick, it's Chevrolet and it's Ford. I mean, it's just, you got to trust what you see. Alex Bowman, Chase Elliott, Jimmy Johnson, and William Byron would be up there too if he went wrecked. So, can't stress that enough. Alex Bowman probably had the fastest car when he was out front. If he gets back out in front, obviously we know what he can do. I'd rather play Alex Bowman than Denny Hamlin Truex. I'd rather play, I think, Chase Elliott, just because, they didn't seem to have, they came towards the end there. That's really encouraging. I know I just said don't put too much stress on Sunday's finish, but the fact that Chevrolet has been so consistent all year, Hendrick Motorsports really fast all year, that is very, very much playing in my mind to think that Chase Elliott found something at the end of Sunday. Now they can put it on a new car, factor in some more adjustments to that. I think Chase Elliott's going to shock a lot of people, and he may go under-owned here with people flocking to Hamlin, Truex, and Kevin Harvick. Watch out for Chase Elliott. I think he might have something for these guys. Like I said, Alex Bowman, great play. I mean, like I said in my video on Sunday's race, I wouldn't have been shocked if he led, the first 60 laps, but it turns out Keselowski and Bowman led, and I was definitely not on that combo with Bowman and Keselowski. I thought either or, and it turns out both of them led, and Harvick. But Bowman, I think, is a very solid pick, 19th. He's probably a lock for a top 6, top 5 if he stays out of trouble. That team is just on another planet right now in terms of form. Keselowski, 8th. I will not have Keselowski in this race. Just going over these top 7 guys, I'll pass on him. I think a lot of teams have made adjustments, and we've seen Keselowski was not as strong towards the end of the race in traffic. So the farther back he goes, the more concerning it gets for me. He's got to finish second. I don't think he can do that. I don't think Keselowski's going to lead laps now that he's back here. He's probably going to be a fade for me. I think you got to take some hard stances here because of the way way this lineup is set up. You have to take hardcore stances. I think one of those will be fading some of these guys up here, hoping that I hit. I'll probably miss, but you gotta have faith here. And I think if you're gonna fade someone up here, it should be Keselowski, maybe Truex, maybe. I'm just not a fan of them guys, and I wasn't a fan of Keselowski to begin with last time. But the pole sitter, clean air, it showed again. Joey Logano starting 3rd. He is one of my favorite plays here. I think, we say that clean air, but Ryan Preece, let's be honest, I don't think he can hold that lead in the clean air. Obviously I could be proven wrong. But I think Logano, if he can get off that inside line really fast, I think he could do something. I think he could challenge for the lead from Preece early on and lead. He could be your Keselowski of this race. Lead, 50, 60 laps, rack up them points, Dominator points, and be firmly sitting in your GPP lineups. But what I'm about to talk about, the next two guys I talk about, you really have to figure out what you're going to do with them in terms of GPP and cash. Like I said, Logano, a very good pick to lead early laps. The question is, do you want to take a risk and bank on him leading laps, or would you rather take place differential? That's the big thing here. So, like I said, the next two guys I'm talking about, Jimmie Johnson, William Byron, I'm going to talk about them together. You know, we've seen what happened. Jimmie Johnson took the lead from Alex Bowman, his teammate, and he started to drive away, and he was about to win the first stage, and what's he do? He comes off, I think, turn 2, and he gets underneath Chris Buescher off the corner exit, and Chris Buescher has to slide up because he tried to overdrive the corner to stay on the lead lap. He has to check up. Jimmie Johnson wasn't expecting it. He was riding his quarter panel pretty hard, and he just plain gets loose. He taps that left rear of Chris Buescher, and he goes spinning, makes significant contact with the front of his car. He's done. I mean, it was wild. But we saw Jimmie Johnson had speed, and it just goes back to what I'm saying. Hendrick Motorsports right now, raw speed-wise, they are unbelievable. And it's even more impressive that Jimmie Johnson was able to catch Alex Bowman in that clean air. That just shows you how fast he was. And William Byron was right on his tail. Let's not forget, William Byron won the first stage when Jimmie Johnson wrecked. So these two guys right here, Jimmie Johnson, William Byron, same boat, 34th, 37th. You basically have to lock these guys in cash, and that's taking 91 and 89. So you're gonna be right at, you're gonna be right at 18,000. So right there, that leaves 32,000 left. You know, you can take the hardcore stand here and lock these guys. And if I'm playing 20 max, that's something that I would consider. You know, locking these two guys, making them 100%. That's one of the styles I implement in GPP 20 max. I like to lock a core, and I think these two are going to be part of my core. They're definitely going to be in my cash, but the upside is too great. We've seen these guys how fast they were. There's no doubt in my mind they're top 12 cars, and you see this 5X position, 17th for both of them. They are going to crush that. I just think the Chevrolets are way too fast. There's just too much upside. And Jimmie Johnson and William Byron led lap. They were about to lead plenty of laps before William Byron had a loose wheel and spun, and Jimmie Johnson got loose underneath Buescher. So both of them guys firmly in play and will be in my core. Kurt Busch, 18th, he's probably going to be a very, very, very good GPP play. He was a cash game lock basically for a lot of people on Sunday. He now turns into a great GPP play because he starts 18th. He finished 3rd, but with the salary, you're right there at those two. You got Joey Logano up there, and you got guys like Buescher and Stenhouse not that far below him. So Kurt Busch could go really, really low owned, but with the Chevrolet and the horsepower he has and how good he is at Darlington, he's got to come in 9th for 5X. That is very attainable. Very attainable. So he is one of my favorite GPP plays for tomorrow. Erik Jones. So Erik Jones had a loose wheel at the end of Sunday's race. The reason for that was I think he was missing 2 lug nuts, and it's kind of surprising that they made it all the way to the finish. He was limping to the finish with 2 lug nuts. Without 2 lug nuts, I'm pretty sure, or 2 loose ones anyway. Crew chief gets suspended. He's starting 13th. 5X is 7th with Toyota. The lack of speed. I just don't see why you'd play Erik Jones this week, and he's going to be very low owned, but I can't make a case for him. Without his crew chief, 8,500, starting 13th. He didn't overly impress me much there in that race. You know, obviously, the Toyotas did come on at the end of the race. Maybe they found some, but they don't have the Chevy horsepower. Kurt Busch was better. Jimmie Johnson, William Byron, Alex Bowman. You just got to think of all these positions and all these guys that had problems on Sunday. and factor that in, Erik Jones might sneak at top 10. He might, I think 13th might be where he finishes this race. So I'm probably going to take a stand and fade Erik Jones. Just don't see the point. I want my optimal plays, and I want to try to get the right combinations. That's what I'm trying to do tomorrow. If it works, it works. I'm expecting min cash at minimum with this strategy. Let's see. Ryan Blaney, don't play him. He absolutely sucks at Darlington. We found that out. Chris Buescher. I'm going to talk about Chris Buescher, Stenhouse, real fast here. Ricky Stenhouse didn't even make it one lap. He spun, tore his car up. They were done for the day. He starts dead last. Again, I think this is one of the stands you got to make. He's got a Chevy. He don't have as many laps of practice, obviously, because he didn't compete in that race. So he needs to limp around at the start until he gets a hang of it. Starting dead last, he has to get 21st for 5X. I'd be stunned if he was not close to 100% cash. There's just too much upside there. Even though I think 21st is a very good finishing position for him. I think he could definitely finish 17th, somewhere in that range, but I think 21st is more realistic for where he finishes, and for 5X, I mean, that's pretty much a lock, and there's not much downside. All there is upside there, so he'll be in my cash lineup. Chris Buescher, 17th. That car, for value position, 17th. That car was terrible. I don't know what they did, but they unloaded terribly slow. Chris Buescher is a very good driver. He's probably the most underrated driver in NASCAR, I would say. And that car was terrible. Ryan Newman was driving the wheels off his car in his return. But Roush Fenway, the 17 team, absolutely missed the boat on this one. That car was horrible. And Chris Buescher was getting lapped by Jimmy Johnson. Chris Buescher is a solid top 20 car every week in and week out. This is one of the scenarios, like I said, you've got to think that they're going to come back. They've had to learn something from the 6 team. Ryan Newman was top 15 most of the day. This guy's sitting here in 32nd. He needs to finish 17th for 5X. That's where I was predicting he would finish last race, and he was a good value pick. I think you got to go back to the well, Chris Buescher here. He's a little pricey now, $8,100. Obviously, if you can get up to William Byron, you're going to. But 32nd and 39th, I would rather. Man, that's tough. If you have to pick between those two, I'll just let you look at the stats here. Buescher a little bit better than Stenhouse here. Obviously, that's weighed in a little bit by the wreck, but it's tough. Tyler Reddick absolutely smashed. I think he's another great pick. He might go very low on, but he only has to come in 9th, and he was top 7, top 8, most of that second half of that race. And he finished 7th, so I think it's very attainable for him as well. Matt Kenseth shocked us. Probably won't go there. Aric Almirola, here's another interesting play. He's 7,400. He finished 12th Sunday, but he peaked his nose in the top 10 for a little bit. I think if you get a little like 15% Aric Almirola, it'll be more than the 10% you're probably looking at. So that might be an interesting stand to take on him. Just looking at here, Clint Bowyer, 7,300. He starts 4th, so he's going to start on the outside line at the start of the race. If he could potentially be 2nd on the 2nd lap, looking at Ryan Preece. He could be looking out front at Ryan Preece. If he gets around Preece, Clint Bowyer, it might be a sneaky play to lead laps, but again, he's going to have to stay in the top 5 to hit value, and I'm not going to bank on Clint Bowyer to finish top 5 any week the way he's been looking. Just some more guys. Christopher Bell continues to disappoint. I'll probably have like 10-15% of him. But, I mean, he's just proven to me he's reckless and careless with the car. And I think it was today that Levine Family Racing is struggling to keep the shop open. like a lot of teams I'm sure is, but that's very concerning with that team. And, as we go down through here, Bubba Wallace, I was doing the 5X breakdown. Bubba Wallace only has to finish 18th. He finished 21st. I think this is definitely a reachable position for him. He's popped his nose in the top 20 sometimes during these first couple races of the season. So, 18th is not that. For 5,700 and he only has to gain 3 spots, I think that's very obtainable for him. So, I'll probably have, like I said, 20%, 15% Bubba and hope for the best. Corey LaJoie, he has finished 23rd for 5X at 5,500. He's probably the best cheap play down here you can get. He finished 31st. I think he got some trouble. I don't know what exactly they did, but you have to look at him. Bubba Wallace and Corey LaJoie is probably going to be my cutoff here for the people I'm going to use. Like I said, though, if you can afford that extra 200, Bubba Wallace is probably the more solid play. Obviously, Corey LaJoie has more upside there, but both are not the best drivers in the sport. So, but at that price, you don't really need much at all. Just to go over a couple things here. Darlington average now, updating that. Erik Jones remains at the top of the board. Denny Hamlin second. Kyle Busch third. Kevin Harvick slides up to fourth. Keselowski remains there in top 5. But just looking over here, and looking at all these positions that they have to obtain, you look at a guy like Jimmie Johnson, he's had solid history in the past. Obviously, there's a lot of races factor into that. But 17th, that should be a no-brainer pick for anybody on, playing DFS tomorrow. And, like I said, Tyler Reddick, really impressive, pumping that 94.7 driver rating. Let's see, the list goes on and on. John Hunter Nemechek, very impressive there, what he did. But yeah, there's that sorted in averages. But I'm going to go in my top 5 plays really fast here. I know you guys don't want to sit here and watch this forever. But my top 5 plays, just going by starting position, I'm going to go Jimmie Johnson is probably my top play on the board. Starting 37th, only has to finish 17th. William Byron, again, he's my second favorite. And then it's tough for me between Buescher and Stenhouse. I trust Buescher more. Stenhouse has way more upside because I feel like they're identical in speed. Those two cars generally are. So, I think in cash, if you're choosing between Buescher and Stenhouse, you'd have to go Stenhouse. That's 7 more spots that he has an advantage of. So, I'd go Stenhouse 3, Buescher 4, and I would have to say you got to look at Kevin Harvick again. He starting 20th. If there is somehow you can start line, it's going to be tough. But if you want a guy that you think is going to surefire lead laps, I think Kevin Harvick's a safe bet. He's bringing the same car. Like I said, that was concerning and all. But he has the number 1 pit stall. If they get in the top 10, top 5, and they get a caution, and that pit crew can gain him like second, or somehow get him the lead spot, Kevin Harvick's going to lead laps again. And like I said, there's a good chance he could win this race. So, there's 229 laps too. This is an extra 100 miles, and there's more Dominator points to be had, so just factor that in as well. My favorite, we'll go by salary here. My favorite top end play, probably Kevin Harvick, and then I'm gonna go Chase Elliott. I think Chase Elliott is going to be underowned in this spot. Like I said, I feel like they found something at the end of Sunday's race, and they might have missed the setup just a tad bit, early on in the race because he wasn't really doing anything. and he got put back there. He got a penalty on pit road, which really hurt him. So watch out for Chase Elliott. Watch out for Chase Elliott tomorrow, and again, Alex Bowman. I am probably, like I said, I'm probably not going to play Kyle Busch. If I do, it'll be very minimum. Kevin Harvick, I'm going to have a good chunk of. Truex. If you're going to play a Toyota out of Hamlin, Truex, and Kyle Busch, play Truex. That is my opinion. I'm probably going to take a stand and fade Hamlin and fade Busch. I like these Chevys too much. I'm going to fade Keselowski. I'm going to have some of Logano because I think he is going to lead the early on laps. I don't think Priest can hang on at all. Priest is just too inconsistent. He gets himself in trouble too much. And then I've already talked about these guys. So, like I said, it's going to be an interesting race. Don't factor in Sunday's race in a lot of your finding and in a lot of your research, but please be smart about this. It's going to be a very chalky cash. You're going to find when you go build a cash lineup, there's going to be one solid cash lineup that everybody's going to have. And odds are that this is more of a GPP kind of slate. Obviously, the cash plays are there. But you want two dominators, I believe. In cash, everybody wants place differential, and I think there's so much value there that you don't have to have a dominator in cash. I think it's safe that you can play place differential. But again, I think it's going to be super chalky, and you're going to run into some problems. Let's see, and I'm going to sort this by form just so you guys can look one last time. Kevin Harvick, Chase Elliott, Bowman, Keselowski, like I said. So yeah, that will do it on today's Toyota 500 DFS and gambling picks. Try to thumbs up this video if you guys could. Subscribe. Help me reach these first 100 subscribers. I had a YouTube channel about 3 years ago, and it took like 6 months to get 100 subscribers. I think I'm up to 34 right now, which is very solid. I want to thank you guys so much for subscribing. And if you could follow me on Twitter at StiflerBets if you got any questions. And if you want this spreadsheet, just reach out to me on Twitter. I'll send this spreadsheet out to you guys so you guys can look and cipher through this information and just filter these things, because you can only see so much from this video. Once again, I want to thank you guys for watching, and hopefully we crush another slate.